That was New York's own BD3. B as in boy, D as David 3. And I'd like to thank them for providing the intro and outro music for this podcast. You can find BD3 on all major streaming services. We'll be right back. Thanks for joining the Walt Weekly. This is your host, Walter Latham. Michelle Swinney McCombs will be back with us. She's out in the field. And in the meantime, we want to continue with part 2 of our interview on emergency preparedness with Captain Jevan Willis.
To be able to say what your concerns are going to be.
All right.
So that's one thing I would say. And then you got to understand, what your perspective is, like the concept of fight or flight, if you will. So, is basically, do you stay and hunker down, like you say, shelter in place? If you're that kind of a person, you might want to have more supplies on hand. Maybe between have about a 30-day supply. And if you're a person who's going to immediately trying to, leave, go out of town, or you have a retreat of some form, a second house or family in another state or city, you might be the person who's ready to go, send that flight response, and be having an evacuation route. And that's important to know, because one of the things that you need to consider, I guess, the base things, the four things, or the first thing you need to do is basically make a plan. You need to understand, how are you going to receive alerts and the warning? So whether it's through your phone, through the local news, through the radio, because sometimes the communication lines are out. So
right.
You have like alarms that go off, like the fire stations sometimes have alerts and alarms and horns in certain areas. Understand what your sheltering in place and plan is, what your evacuation route is, and then how are you going to communicate with your family and your friends? Because if the phone lines are jammed up, and we all depend on phone lines, how do you get in touch with those people? Do you have a predetermined place that you guys are going to meet at, at a certain time, regardless, rain, sleet, or snow, hey, we're going to meet at the house, by 9:00 at night, or, at this work or at the school or whatever you feel is that rally point. So those are things that you definitely need to have up front.
Okay. I have one other question for you, Captain, and that has to do with, is there any generic go bag per se? I mean, just, okay, I may live here and I got a lot of things I have to consider, but at the very least, I'm going to have this go bag that will contain A, B, C, D, E, maybe 15 different items, and that's it. Do you recommend that you do a generic, that everybody has some type of generic go bag?
Yeah. I think that was what I was alluding to. A lot of the stuff when I was talking, I went down that list was really just basic stuff that you could get at the store, or you can go and actually order these kits. It's funny, they got websites. You talk about the doomsday preppers, but there's websites like that called, doomsdayprepper.com, where you can go and buy they call it a bug out bag, fully packed for you. You don't have to do anything. They range from, the most expensive is probably about $150, down to, about, $50. So, it just depends on how much you want to put in there, and, how critical it is to you. The other items were more so kind of personalized. As I said, like that 5 minutes, there's things in your house and it's going to burn down or it's going to flood. You might be thinking about your pictures or your laptop with all your memories and data on there, or your birth certificate and your documents and medical stuff, supplies. That's the personalized things that you would apply to that go bag.
These go bags, the site is Doomsday Preppers, www.doomsdaypreppers.com, right?
Yeah, that's one site. You got another site called survivalblog.com, which is actually a book How to Survive the End of the World as We Know
You
It
got them extremists.
by a guy
Yeah,
named
yeah.
James Wellesley. I kind of stray against some of those, but the thing about it is what's interesting about those types of books is that they go through scenarios that you would not thought about. Right. But those, I hate to say it, are the groups of folks who are thinking about this very seriously, and therefore have taken the time to put together the most comprehensive types of packing lists.
Yeah, one other question I have going back to these bags that are already pre-packed, right?
Yep, go ahead.
With a starting price, let's say they may be 150 on down. I would think, from my own situation, that's something that you could use as a baseline type thing. Okay, all right, I got this, and I can build it out based on this. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's it. Like, I think the website is doomsdayprep.com, doomsdayprep.com. Okay. But yeah, that's where you want to start. I mean, that's again for more of a emergency 72-hour type of event where you need to leave, or you can shelter in place and use those. But those are really meant for for your evacuation plan. Hopefully within your house you should have, like I said, 30 days worth of supplies that we talked about. Okay. Food, water, and all of those other additional things. Batteries, some form of a generator, or if you live in a house, or some solar powered / self-generated type of devices that can produce energy also.
Okay. All right, great. One other thing that I do have is in terms of local assets that we could utilize, such as local law enforcement. What do you recommend that we engage with our local law enforcement to see what they have? They should have something.
No, yeah, definitely. And so remember that website I told you, like www.ready.gov. That is basically the website that you would go to for all of they call it, Department of Homeland Security. That's where they provide all of your planning, any type of emergency response. That would be the website you would go to. And then they have links to, the other one is FEMA.gov, which is, of course, that where the, federal emergency, response, program, where, they have also this information. And one of the interesting ones is called Community Emergency Response Team. It's a CERT program you can access through that ready.gov website. It's about a 268 page PDF you can download, and it basically, you can walk through all of the planning phase for your community, do your own hazardous analysis, risk assessment, learn what you need to know, and that will also help you coordinate with your local law enforcement, fire department, all of the other city officials, to be, one, identified as a person who has a skill set and something to offer, and two, if you're willing to volunteer and help out the larger community, because that's really what it comes down to. You got to remember that we're kind of all in this together, and when an emergency happens, it's not just you and your family. You're going to be looking at your friends next door and the folks down the street. And, you're going to want to work together, versus, kind of divide and conquer, if you will. So I think that's one of the most important things to remember.
All right.
So
very good. So I really appreciate you coming on to the Walk Weekly to share your expertise on emergency preparedness. I think our listeners will gain insight, and hopefully they will take some action, some steps towards getting ready for any type of emergency. I would like to thank Captain Jevan Willis, retired United States Army. Hopefully we'll have you back.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. And I'm also honored to be here and look forward to doing it again in the future.